everybody and welcome back. This is part 15 of our Trumpeter 1200 scale HMS Hood build. It's only been 3 days since I posted part 14, which dealt with all the funnel work that we needed to do on the model. So I'm only going to have 3 days to do work before posting on Friday. So I'm not going to get an awful lot done. What I want to do is concentrate on the after funnel base, which has a couple of bits of work to do on it. There's the radio room to build and just 1 or 2 other details, some winches and so on that I want to build, and the couple of searchlight platforms that need modifying as well. So that's just going to be the limit of what we can get through over the next 3 days. As you can see, I've left the funnels off the ship for the time being. They're going to be stored well away. I might actually get the funnel sleeves fitted and just remove the delicate tops, but we'll see how we go with that. So we haven't got a lot of time left this week, so let's get over to the bench and get those little bits and pieces sorted out. So we'll start with the radio office, which sits on top of the after funnel base, and it's just 3 trumpeter parts and the rest is Pontos etch brass. There's a tiny bit of cleaning up to do. There's a ladder moulded on the side and some doors, or a door here, which needs removing, and on this tower the door here needs to be taken off and replaced with an etch brass one. So I'll start off by assembling and cleaning up the trumpeter plastic parts. Trumpeter have moulded the roof of this office with a recess in it, as though it's a platform inside, but actually it was just a solid roof, a flat roof on top. So Pontos provide the replacement roof for that, with the hole in for the tower to stick through. I'll glue these 2 halves of the tower together first, then it'll just have time to be setting a little bit before I come to sand the detail off it. I'll just let that set up while I clean the other part up. I'll get all the Pontos parts sorted out now. Okay, so that's everything together. So let's get this one sorted. So I'll start off with the roof, and Pontos fixes an error in the trumpeter kit here by providing this roof with a bit of an overhang on it, which is correct for the ship, and obviously it's a flat roof now. And I have to fit the tower through the hole there, so I'll get that sorted out as well. Let's clean up the seam, and I need to remove this door as well. We'll just we'll just test fit this. Gosh, that's snug. maybe didn't get all the door off. It's surprising what a bit of water does to these sanding sticks. You can feel it cutting a lot better with just a drop of water on them. I think what happens is if you try to use them dry, they just clog up. Try that. That's it. So I'm going to glue the tower onto the top of the office, and then I can just slide the roof down over it. So I'll just apply a drop of medium super glue to this. It doesn't need a lot. It's not structural at all. Try and get it square. Fit this door on the side. Next up, I can put the ladder on the side. These Pontos ladders are really nice. They're in relief once you've folded them up, so they stand off the bulkheads, just like the real thing. Obviously the thing with these vertical ladders is, well, sounds obvious, but to get them vertical, they stand out like a sore thumb if you've got them on an angle. So that one's okay. The door that goes on the tower is obviously curved, just to fit round the shape of the tower itself. So Pontos provide this particular door with the little ridges in the back to help you bend it. Like just a run round a file handle like that'll be enough. I'll just put the ladder on first because the ladder goes to the front of the tower and the door's just off to the side. So if I put the ladder on first, it'll enable me to position the door more accurately. So with the ladder in place, I can now fit the door just to the side of it. Just make sure we get hinged the right way, so it's hinged on the left. Next there's a vent that goes on this bulkhead here. So all I'm doing is applying a touch of medium super glue to the top. Okay, so next up we've got to do these aerial spreaders. I'll just get it started before I apply any glue. So just get the whole thing ready to join. and I can just, there's a little reinforcing bracket on top that just needs folding down, so I'll do that now. Okay, so I'll glue that up now. And that's one done. I'll just give it a bit of a clean up. I've got some glue that's seeped out of that. I think Trumpeter also provide these as brass parts, but they're quite a different shape, they're not as big. So these fit into, there's already one hole in the Trumpeter moulding. I want to get the braces on this as quickly as I can, because obviously it's quite delicate. I'll put the brace on now, it'll just strengthen the assembly. And just one thing to be aware of, I've taken the door and the ladder off because when I test fitted the brace it was interfering with the ladder, or the ladder was interfering with it. So I'll put the braces on first and then I can fit the ladder into the space that I've got. And you just need to be careful not to mix these two braces up, port and starboard, because they are different. One leg's a bit longer than the other. So you'll end up having the spreader at the wrong angle if you get them mixed up. I can just make sure that they're square against the grid on the cutting mat. These last parts are a kind of angle bracket really, they just sit on top of the support frame. Pontos provide these as separate parts because they could have tried to have a fold along this very thin arm, but it would be virtually impossible to fold up accurately for such a narrow piece of brass like that. So this is fiddly, but it's really the only way to go about doing this. Actually, you can hardly see those. Okay, so I can go back and put the door and ladder on now that I know that I've got the spreaders in okay. Don't think there's a lot of room really. That door's going to have to be tight up to the moulding there. So I managed to get the ladder in. It's a bit better than it was, but it's still quite tight really. I mean, if you climbed up there you'd be cracking your head on the spreader bar. Maybe that's what they did. I'll get it painted, but I'm going to leave it off, and you can appreciate why I'm going to do that when you see what that looks like. So you can imagine just catching either of the spreader arms, it's going to rip the whole thing off. So I'll pop that on when it comes to doing the rigging, which is obviously going to be a long time in the future. But I can't risk this on the ship at the minute. It's far too exposed. The next thing I want to do is to modify these searchlight platforms. They go on the back end of the aft funnel base, and there's really just a little job to do with this, which is to trim down the front of the shield and replace that with some railing. And to do that, Pontos provide us with a cutting template, a bit like they did with the UP shields. So we just need to tape that on to the platform and get it centralized. So I need to get that in the middle of the moulding. Okay, that's alright. So I can I'll change that blade, it looks a bit blunt. I'm getting through number 11 blades like nobody's business. I'll just make a score line mark on it first. Okay, so I can take that off now. I'll get this somewhere close with a knife, and then I'll go back in with a file just to smooth it out. That's close enough. I'll just go down to the line now with this little file. And this new brass top fits on around the edge, and that tells me that I haven't quite taken enough off that. I just need a tiny little bit more off the shield. That's the new rim. And then we have to fold a piece of etched railing up, and it's in a angle. It's not round, it's angled all the way around the curve. So I'm going to go around this a step at a time and just attach it as I go along. The part has little fold marks on it to get you started. So I'll get this first section tacked on to start with. And I'll just let that set, and then I can follow the railing around and just glue one section at a time. So that's the railing bent to shape, just around all the angles. You can just adjust it once or twice. As we've said before with this brass, don't do it too many times, otherwise it will disintegrate. There we are, that's the first one done. That's the two searchlight platforms finished. I'm going to do some of the Carley rafts now, because we have 4 stacks, 4 pairs of Carley rafts on this after funnel base. So I want to do those and get them on the base. So I just need to clean them up first of all. And I'm going to glue the pairs together. Obviously the underside one doesn't need any detailing on it because it's hidden. So I can glue the pair of rafts together. Then Pontos provide us with the interior for the top raft. Obviously we don't need one on the one underneath. And then we have a set of straps which goes on and wraps the two together. So I need to get this positioned fairly centrally. I can just go around now and tack the tops into place with some super thin. Okay, so we can let that set up a little bit. And then we just need to wrap the ties around and just glue them to the bottom float. So just gradually work our way around until they're all in place. Okay, that's one of the pairs of Carley floats. You can see they're bound together now with the Pontos etch brass piece. So I can paint that up. There's actually some little oars to go inside as well, so I can do those later. So I've 4 pairs of those to fit onto the after funnel base. I've got the parts for the winches here. The aft funnel base had a couple of winches on the back, just here. So these are entirely made up from the Pontos parts. So we've got 2 resin winch bodies, a couple of turned brass drums there and their ends in etched brass, and then there's a couple of panels on each one that just go up here, just with a bit of relief detail on them. So I need to just clean these up a little bit and then we can get them applied to the resin. I just need to drill a hole here for the, just to accept the drum. So just a 1mm bit to take out that hole. Let's try that for size. I've made a mistake here because I've taken too much off the resin base here, so the drum stands just proud of the base at the bottom, so it won't sit properly. So I'm going to have to just build that base up again with a bit of plastic sheet. Just doesn't need much. That's I think it's 0.5mm. So it's not difficult to fix, it's just annoying to have to spend time repairing things that you've got wrong. So that'll be okay, that'll give us the clearance that we need. The good thing is that styrene glues to resin really well, so we'll have that fixed fairly quickly, I hope. Right, so I've built the base up again after that self-inflicted injury. I do annoy myself when I do things like that. Just creates extra work. But they're okay now. They'll sit properly, so I'll glue the barrels on, or the drums, whatever they are. A millimetre drill's perfect for those. It's a nice tight fit, so I'm not completely relying on the super glue for those. Again, just make sure they're nice and square. And just one thing to note, that the barrel goes on opposite sides because these two winches face each other, and both have the actual winch drums facing aft. So again, I don't want to make another mistake on these. This is a new drill. I actually got it for Christmas. My sister-in-law bought me it. She can't understand why I'd want a drill for Christmas. But who wouldn't want a drill for Christmas, for goodness sake? But this is better than these sort of standard bit holders. Because what I find is when I'm rotating these, it unscrews the one that you're not using. Whereas this has got a rotating ball that just sits in the palm of your hand, and it's just easier to use. I like these. It's a Revel one, not expensive. I'll just add the end piece now. Okay, and the last thing to do is to fit the panels onto the side of the box up here. So that's one of the Pontos winches, and they sit here on the back of the funnel base. Something like that. Okay, so back at the model now, and the bits and pieces that we've been building are sorted out and on the after funnel base. So the radio room is just positioned. I'm going to leave that off. Similar to the funnels, it's very delicate. So until I've got a temporary cover made, I'm not going to be fitting these. I want to build a Perspex cover for the model for the latter stages of the build. But until that's ready, I'm not going to be fitting these delicate parts such as the funnel caps and this radio room with the delicate spreaders on it. The funnel base itself can be fitted, and I'll do that before the next episode, part 16. In part 16, I want to move on to the after superstructure, which is really this part of the trumpeter kit, and it sits right at the back of the shelter deck, and that's part N2 in the trumpeter kit. And it does need quite a bit of alteration to it. There's quite a few inaccuracies in it, so I'm going to concentrate on that over the next week and get that sorted out. When I come to fit that piece, I'll also be fitting the last piece of wooden deck, which is this piece here, which goes on the back of the shelter deck. So I'll have to be fitting that piece of deck before I can actually glue the after superstructure down. So that'll keep us busy for the next week, and I'll bring you up to date with that in part 16, which I'll be posting next Friday. So hopefully you'll be able to join me for that, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.